is only ever thinking about you and yours. It's me thinking all the time, and others are left at the back burner. And people will underestimate how often they do this. They don't really put their mindset in the mentality of thinking about the whole world of human beings at large and how the entire human condition is enslavement. Most human beings only ever think of their own personal life situation from the moment they wake up in the morning until the moment they go to sleep each night. That's all they ever think about is themselves and their own. Again, they may perhaps consider their immediate family, their extended family, their friends, etc., right? People who are close to them and help them in their daily situations in life. People may consider them in addition to themselves. And I say may, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't even do that. But very little beyond that, if anything. For anyone who is genuinely attempting to be honest with themselves, and that's the first dictate of awakening. If you're going to truly awaken, you can't lie to yourself. You have to be honest with yourself about the dynamics that you see at work in the world. So if we're going to really be honest with ourselves, okay, that fact cannot be denied. Most people only care about themselves, only are concerned with themselves and their own life situation, and very little beyond that. Again, they may consider family and friends, may not even do that. But if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we can't deny that fact. We have to accept that that's a daily fact of everyday life. And that's what defines de facto Satanism. Perhaps nothing better illustrates de facto Satanism. Selfish thinking is the primary defining hallmark of the satanic mindset and ideology. So again, I ask you to be honest with yourselves. How many people think this way? How many people would you honestly estimate are in this me mindset all day, every day, from the minute they wake up till the minute they go to sleep at night? And if you're honest with yourself, you're telling yourself the truth about an important dynamic of the world. How many people are completely self-centered? How many people are just in me mentation? How many people don't really care what's going on in the world? They only care about their own comfort, their own life situation. Be honest about the dynamic, and then you're going to truly understand what our work is to do to truly enlighten and wake other people up. They can't stay in that mentality if the whole world dynamic and the whole world situation is to change for the better. It's not possible. And that's a sobering reality that most people do not want to accept in life. The overwhelmingly vast majority of human beings are rarely, if ever, consider the wider situation of human reality and the human condition. They never think for 1 second of the day about human freedom or how it is being destroyed by the tyranny of government. Most people. They are unconcerned with the continuation of human slavery. They don't even consider that dynamic as the human condition. They care nothing for the suffering of others as long as they themselves are comfortable in the immediate sense. This is exactly what Satanism is at its foundational core. I can't stress that enough. Not caring about anything wider than yourself, your immediate family and friends, is exactly what Satanism is. That's what Satanism is. Care for the self only, no care for the wider issues that are taking place in the body of humanity to improve the human condition by, of course, improving the human mindset within the self first, then helping others to become enlightened and improve their condition, and therefore help the world improve its collective condition, its aggregate condition. It's only done when we first change our own mindset and come out of the de facto satanic ideology. And we're nowhere near that state. We're deeply entrenched and entrapped by it. Another hallmark, defining characteristic psychologically of being a de facto Satanist is always wanting immediate sensate gratification, immediate pleasure in the moment, regardless of what the long-term consequences are, because one has no willpower. to change. How many people would you say are like that? Almost everyone. Most human beings have been conditioned to believe that the end goal of human existence, indeed our very purpose for living, the purpose of life, is to accumulate as much sensate pleasure and comfort as possible in life. That describes almost everyone, with a relative few exceptions. They live in a state of conditioned response, desiring only immediate sensate pleasure to such an extent that they lack the basic willpower even to stop engaging in habits that are ultimately leading them into a condition of sickness and disease. They can't bring about internal willpower and strength of will to even act in their own interests. That's how conditioned in an immediate response mechanism they are to pleasure and sensate gratification in the immediate sense. In this sense, the satanic ego that they embody actually acts as a mechanism to degrade and weaken those who subscribe to it, making them easy prey for the dark occult ruling class to poison, to degrade, to damage their ability to think properly, to have proper health to even wage any counter war against this dark occult ruling class, and not to understand their psychological strategies, because the degradation of the mind will inevitably lead to the degradation. The degradation of the body will inevitably lead to the degradation of the mind and the will. And very few people have even put this dynamic together. Very few people have even put this strategy, this way of going about accomplishing the dark occult agenda together. They can't see it for what it is. And that's because they're stuck in that I want immediate sensate gratification all the time. They cannot even delay gratification. They want it immediately. And again, this is a very important dynamic to consider and to understand, especially in light of how the dark occult interact among themselves and raise their own children, who are going to be the future, groomed to be the future rulers of the world. The inability to delay personal sensate gratification until a later time is one of humanity's primary weaknesses, and that's one of the dark occult's primary strengths. Interestingly, the ability to delay gratification until primary goals have been met is a defining characteristic of dark occultists, and a skill they always strive to teach their own young, who will eventually inherit their worldly power, especially if worldwide consciousness does not improve on a grand scale. Very, very important concept to keep in mind. Very few researchers actually even ever talk about that. Again, another primary aspect of the mentation, the psychology of de facto Satanists, or in other words, just about every human being, is the ego or the self raised to apotheosis, or God-like position in the mind, seeing the self as God, seeing the ego as the highest force in the universe, seeing human beings in general as the highest power in the world. How many people who have no spirituality, and whether you're religious or not, they simply do not consider any power in the world higher than the power of a human being. They think as long as they do something and get away with it in the physical sense, that's all that ultimately matters. Is if you get caught in the physical, that's the only way that you're going to experience negative consequence, when that is in fact not the case. Most human beings would not specifically themselves claim to be God or to even see themselves as God, yet their behavior is how you will know them as de facto Satanists. How selfish is their behavior? Most people in the modern world do not think there is any higher power than human beings, and if they exercise immoral behavior in their lives, the only way they will ever experience consequences for that behavior is if they are caught and punished by other human beings. See, they don't really consider the dynamic of natural law and karma. They might say that they believe in karma, but they don't really behave that way. Again, it's not a matter of what people say, it's a matter of how they behave. And most people see human beings in general as the highest power in creation. They don't see anything that has created in the natural world a set of laws that will ultimately hold them to account for their behavioral choices and bring the consequences of those behavioral choices to the world. That is, in fact, what natural law is and what it does. And most people don't understand natural law. They don't recognize it. They will not even claim that it exists, let alone do they truly understand how it works upon the aggregate human behavioral choices and ultimately the behavioral conditions that we then inherit through those choices. And that is how our laws of consequence are, the laws that govern our behavioral consequence actually works. And that is what natural law is. Most people will just do whatever they have to get ahead in life, even if it means stepping over other people or using them as stepping stones. They care very little as long as they don't receive consequence in the physical world. But the real question is what are they doing to themselves thinking this way and behaving this way at a soul level? And again, I'm not talking about the minority of people, and I'm not talking about the very tiny minority that are actually in the ruling class. I'm talking about the everyday average Joe and Sally, okay? The everyday person. And you would be disturbed if you are honest with yourself and really look at that dynamic. It would be highly disturbing how many people think like that and how many people are inculcated into this de facto satanic religion and mindset. If you're being honest with yourself. If you're lying to yourself, you'll tell yourself a drastically different story. But if you look at the dynamic honestly, you'll see it for what it is. Another aspect of their psychology is the ego acts